What's going on, everybody? Brown and Scoop in the building. I'm Brandon Robinson. This is Jake Brown.
What up? What up?
CBS Locals Play.it Network. Make sure you guys subscribe on all social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat,
Facebook.
Periscope, Facebook,
YouTube.
Because you know we're in there like swimwear, right?
We're always in there.
We're in there like swimwear. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of everything. We're at March Madness Media Day. We got a chance to talk to some of the talent here at March Madness. We spoke with who did we speak to?
Steve Smith, Grant Hill, Greg Gumbel.
Bill Raftery.
Bill Raftery, Onions.
I think we should roll the tape?
Of course.
Roll them. What's going on, sir? Talk to us about the tournament.
Crazy, I think. As you well know, everybody you've talked to has probably said the same thing. There's so many good teams that a lot of schools are going to go back to the campus and woe is me, and that should have been us. We beat them twice, but that's, you know, the difference. March brings out the best in some teams. Some get a little bit better. They get more organized in their, feeling towards one another, togetherness. And that's the team that blossoms. They start playing well late. Big East, for example, somebody gets hot. Big Ten. I keep mentioning Purdue because I watch Purdue and they're really good, but nobody mentions them in the Big Ten. They could win. They could lose the Big Ten and end up, maybe winning the title. So Utah's another team that jumps in that nobody talks about back east. They're really good. When they get to the Sweet 16 last year with Portal at center and some pretty good, Loveridge, good shooter, but that's what makes it fun for us, but not so much for coaches.
Utah hasn't been relevant since our guy Keith Van Horn and Rick Majerus were running the Rams over there.
Bill Hill McGill was one way back. Jack Gardner was the old coach, but you're right. Rick was, Van Horn, of course, ended up with the Nets, and Rick used to say, I wish I made him work harder on defense. That was the one lament, God bless Rick, he used to talk about. But Van Horn was a good offensive player.
What's the difference this year versus past years in terms of all the teams really that can make it and just the
I think
parity?
you hit it on the head. Most times when we get to talking about the tournament, people have maybe 5-6 different teams that they feel they can win it. Anytime I've asked any of our analysts their thoughts, the lowest number that they come up with is maybe 9 or 10, and it can go up to even 16 or 17. So there are some who will say that there are a lot of really good teams. There are some who would say there are no great teams. It's probably somewhere in the middle that happens. But I think that parity is a good thing, and the fact that there is no real certainty as to who is going to win it makes for an exciting tournament.
Tell us about the tournament. There's 25-30 teams that can really win it. Are there a couple teams in your mind that stand out? Is it a Tom Izzo-led Michigan State?
I think it's the year of the coaches. I think when you have a lot of parity as far as players, no dominant pros, I think the coaches that have had success in the tournament and they know how to coach in-game situations and quick turnarounds when they win a game, I think are going to do well. Those guys, Tom Izzo, Calipari, Krzyzewski, Bill Self, Roy Williams. I think those teams are teams that in the end, they're going to kind of rise above, especially on a neutral floor. But having said that, any of those teams could lose on any given day, and they've proven that over the course of the regular season.
Let's talk about this year's tournament because all the experts are saying 25-30 teams could potentially get to the Final Four. Break it down for us this year. Is it going to be like an Izzo-led team? Is it going to come down to the great coach who gets there? What do you think of this year's tournament?
This year is going to be an exciting tournament for a number of reasons. I really, honestly, cannot answer that question. It's weird. Like in years past, whether my association with the tournament or I was in the NBA and I'm filling out my brackets, you could point to 2 or 3 teams that you feel like they're going to be there. They may or may not win it, but they're going to be there in the Final Four. This year, there's so much parity. I agree. I think there'll be maybe 20 teams that have a chance, and maybe even others that are sort of outside of the conversation that can get hot at the right time. But it's interesting, I think why that's the case. There's a lot of theories. But I think this year's freshman class is just not as strong as other freshman classes in years past. And so you see all these teams that are senior-led. They have guys that have been around. They're veteran. They're older. And so anyway, it's been fun to watch. We'll see how it plays out in the tournament.
Last time we talked, it was around NBA Finals time on the phone, and we talked about who you thought would win the finals, and you said it was such a dead heat. A lot has changed since then. The Golden State Warriors are the NBA champion. Your prediction going into the playoffs are right around the corner. What do you see in Golden State? What do you see in Cleveland and the other teams that you think stand out? Obviously, you're a former Spur, so you have loyalties to there as well. But what do you see that stands out?
You know, I think what's so fantastic about this season is obviously what the Golden State has done in the last 2 seasons. And not only the numbers as far as the record, but also the way they play the game. I think they've changed the way we look at the game of basketball, the shooting of the threes, the movement, the small ball. But I think also what's been phenomenal is the Spurs are like 53-10, I think, or 53-11. That's an unbelievable year, and they're kind of like in the background, and that's the way they like it, the Spurs. So you're talking about a team that's only lost 11 games up against a team that's lost 6 games. Cleveland has been fantastic. It's just when you start to compare to the Warriors and Spurs record-wise, you know, they're ahead of the class. So I think it's when you come down to it, it's the Warriors, obviously, that has lead my vote, who can win the championship. But I think it's the Spurs in the West and maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East that have a chance to be able to beat those guys.